Anybody else? Uncle Steve lived in the other parts of the country and the world as I was growing up. Even though we did not live close, I remember him always being there for my mom and helping us out when we were younger. When I was 16, I got my first car from Uncle Steve and Aunt Deb. He is a very generous man and did a lot for our family and will be greatly missed. Love, your niece, Lindy. Diane. Steve was a wonderful brother to me. I could always count on him if I needed help in any way. There was never a time that I felt he wouldn't be there for me. When I asked, he would give me wise counsel. He loved to get the whole family together and always had ideas and plans for a good time. When we were just kids, we loved to swim together on family vacations. I remember one summer on Clear Lake. I had drifted out from shore on a small boat without paddle. I was so scared. Steve swam out and rescued me. I'll never know if he swam back or just walked us back to shore. As an adult, he seemed to know when I needed help. He didn't criticize, but just helped me out. He was a kind, generous, and caring brother who loved his family. One of the greatest things he offered was a new sister-in-law, a great sister-in-law, and a nephew, James. I love them both. I will miss him greatly. Randall. I'm Steve's brother. I'm Steve's brother by fate of birth. I'm Steve's friend by choice. I can remember as a child on a trip to California, we were swimming at a hotel at the end of a long day of driving, perhaps playing Marco Polo or some other such game. I had a less than a brilliant idea that I would be able to swim under the child's barrier and promptly got my head stuck under the gate, under the water. Just as I was beginning to think that if I got my head in, I must be able to get it out, or maybe I should just panic. And just as those thoughts were crossing my mind, I felt a firm push on the back of my head from the other side. Steve had discovered my predicament and acted. Even though I bravely protested that I had things in hand, I think Steve saved my life that day. Steve and I share a love of family and of reading. We share the subtle joys of a birdie on the 12th and the encompassing joy derived from having selected outstanding wives. We share a love of travel and of God. Forward, our love, our friendship, our brotherhood must span the enigmatic boundaries between death and life. They will be difficult, but it will be. Steve was the oldest of 3 children. It is very sad that his life ended at the age of 56. He had 54 great years, though. 2 of the last years was with pain and suffering. He accepted Christ as a teenager during a program called Lay Witnessing Missions. Later, he was baptized at First Christian Church in Illinois. Steve was blessed with a lot of abilities. He has been both an asset to our society and to the companies in which he has worked. He's always wanted a challenge. When activities became routine, he was ready to move on to another activity. He had compassion for others. When living on Rhode Island, he started a youth chess club. He contributed financial support to church, family, food banks, and several other charities, scholarships. Steve was a good father and guide to his son, James. During James' developmental years, in part, it was Steve's guidance that helped James become an Eagle Scout with his merit badge in religion. Steve enjoyed following the Raleigh Hurricane Hockey Club, so much so that he became treasurer to the fan club. He also enjoyed music of all kinds, classic, opera, jazz, hymns, and such. He was also on the board of the Raleigh Chamber Guild as on the finance team, finance board in that area. For exercise, Steve enjoyed playing golf and hiking the Appalachian Trail. One of the goals of his life was to hike the entire length of the trail. He got 1,400 of the 2,200 miles. I've been told that was the easy part he did first. He definitely will be missed. We will be sustained by our memories and the fact that he is in a better place where he's not suffering and where we will see him again. Pat and Don, his parents. My dad and I shared unusual interests. When we lived in Naperville, we attended German classes together. In middle school, we built model train layouts together. Once I got into high school, we would spend most summer weekends and at least 1 week of the year hiking the Appalachian Trail. He always had my back, even when we ran across rattlesnakes and bears. In the last few years, we couldn't spend much time together between college and Taiwan, but we were able to get together virtually in the City of Heroes. Even in the game, he loved to play the characters that protected those from the supervillains. When everyone else fell, he was the one that stayed standing until the end and was the last one out of the fight. No matter how unusual things were, I knew that if my dad approved of something, that it was the right thing to do. When I started my business, he was supportive. He was always willing to give advice and new ideas. The last thing he told me 2 weeks ago was that he was proud of me, and those words let me know that I chose the right path. I will always remember him, not only as a father, but as a protector of innocence, a mentor, and a friend. James. Whatever good things we build end up building us. Motivation is what keeps you started. Habit is what keeps you going. Imagination is everything. It is the preview of life's coming attractions. We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. Steve and I met over a deck of cards. My college roommate, Sandy, said, "There's this guy from my honors English class that you should meet." A couple months later, Steve convinced me to go on a date. On our second date, he told me he was going to marry me someday. And I promptly told him, "You were crazy. And I will never get married." I had lost my father 8 months earlier and never wanted to love someone and risk the feeling, the pain my mother had felt when she lost my dad. 6 years later, we walked down the aisle and started our great adventure as husband and wife. 6 years later, after that, we had our son, James. The three of us became a strong unit. We never lived near family, and that made us closer to each other. Steve led by example. He was a Christian man. He never wore the label, but lived the brand. We packed a lot into our 32 years of marriage, doing things and going to places that most people don't get to do in a lifetime. Steve was happiest when he was helping others. He always had a goal and wanted to help others achieve theirs. Steve touched the lives of many all over the world. After word of his death spread to friends, I received emails from people on 6 continents expressing their condolences and sharing a story or two about how Steve had helped them change their lives. So if a measure of a man has anything to do with the people that he has touched, then Steve stands tall among men. I am struggling to imagine my life without him. But with God's help, family, and friends, life would go on. Deb.